Hello and welcome to this Masterclass Pitch Perfect. Good to see you all here. Good that you had the ability to join me today. So, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to provide you with tools how to pitch your research in just 90 seconds, which is quite a challenge, of course. I mean, how on earth are you going to get everything about your research in just such a short amount of time? But I'm going to provide you with some easy to use tools in which you can structure your pitch in just a few simple steps that will not only guide you along in crafting the pitch, but will also guide your audience along in understanding your research in a really appealing and engaging way. The very first question that our audience has is this going to be any good? Is this going to be worth my time? Or in other words, is this going to be interesting? So what we need in order to convey our audience that it is worth their time and that it is interesting, we need to engage. We need to engage the audience from the very first minute, from the very first sentence even. Now, what I see is as a very common pitfall with every presentation and with every pitch is that most of the times a lot of speakers start with introducing themselves. However, this is not the very first question that our audience has, and this is therefore not the most engaging thing that you can do. So starting off with introducing yourself is not the best very first sentence. I'm going to dive deeper into it later on, what the options are that you have to engage the audience from the very first sentence. Okay, so what is the second question? The second question is, okay, so I am engaged, I am interested, I wanted to know more, but what is this about? And here, especially if you're pitching, it is quite crucial to get your main message out there in a really focused way, in a nutshell. And we can do this by providing the story, the essence of your research in two things: the problem that you are addressing and the solution that you are addressing. And the problem sometimes can be a really big thing. It can be something, to save the world, we need to save the world from, but it can also simply be a knowledge gap. So I'm going to go into detail further on in this workshop to show you how to address your problem and solution in a relevant way. Okay, so then we go to the third question, the third stage of our audience. So let's assume that we have engaged the audience from the very first sentence, that the audience then understands what our research is about. So we understand the problem and the solution, our main message, but then still the audience could think, why should I care? What does this has to do with me? And why should I invest my time in understanding more about your research? So with just adding problem and the solution, so just adding the essence of your research, that is not quite all we need. What we also need is to make it urgent or relevant. We need to make it relevant for our particular audience. Every audience is different. So when you speak to peers, when you speak to potential collaborators, when you speak to maybe a funding agency, those are all different kinds of audiences. And you need a different argument to make it relevant for this different audience. So please keep in mind, who is your audience and how can I make it relevant for them specifically? So it is essential to engage the audience from the very first start. But what are the strategies? What are the methods that you can use in order to do that within the very first sentence? So please let me know in the chat, what are your ideas? How can we provoke interest from the very first start? So yeah, sharing a story is a great one and definitely one to consider. I'm going to address some examples later on, but yeah, perfect. I love to see this one. I always hope that someone brings this one up. Great. Okay, what else? Okay, guys, that was it. I hope that you enjoyed this masterclass Pitching Perfect. I hope that you are able to craft some lovely presentations and some great online pitches from now on. We still have some time for questions, so if you have any questions, then bring them up.